Good evening. There's just absolutely no way to gracefully segue after that. But when Joe was talking, I was reminded of a line in the Promises. The Promises are something that's read at every AA meeting. And the line is, no matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will come to know a new freedom and a new happiness. And surely today Joe is proving those promises to be true. I'm going to talk a little bit about recovery. A few weeks ago I had the opportunity to go down to Hartford, Connecticut to see the premiere of a new film called Anonymous Persons. And this Anonymous Persons film is about something called the New Recovery Movement. And we don't know a lot about the New Recovery Movement here in Maine. It's something that started to spread nationally. I think it's going to get tremendous impetus out of this film, which I think we're hoping that we can show here in Maine during Recovery Month in September. And what the New Recovery Movement is all about is putting a face onto recovery. Recovery doesn't have a face. Several things happen when people are in recovery. First off, if people are in recovery long enough, they just blend in with everybody else. They might be your doctor, your lawyer, your next door neighbor, your friend. You don't identify them as somebody who's an alcoholic or an addict or a person with mental illness. They're just another person, another part of our society. So that's one way in which recovery becomes invisible. It also becomes invisible because of stigma. Because many, many people who are in recovery are afraid to speak out. In some cases, they may be risking losing their jobs, or certainly potentially being ostracized or treated differently by people. And thirdly, recovery programs, and particularly 12-step programs, have for a long time had a principle of anonymity. And so again, people who were living successful lives in recovery weren't seen. So who's seen? Well, addiction has its spokespersons, Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Lohan. They're out there spreading the message. You know what addiction looks like. You've got shows like Intervention that show you how bad it can be. Mental illness, tragically, what most people these days are thinking about when they think about mental illness is Newtown. I was stunned. Shortly after that, I went to a meeting to talk about how to curb gun violence. These were sophisticated, professional people. And the first suggestion was we've got to control the mentally ill. Now when I said, hey, mentally ill people are no more likely to be violent than anybody else in society, I was disbelieved. Those forces that sort of suppress the message of recovery are very powerful. The fact is, I learned this from watching the movie, that just in addiction recovery, there are 23 million people in the United States. That's incredible. Add to that the countless millions more that are recovering from mental illness, and it's probably 1 out of every 5 people in this room, or in any room that you've been in lately. So it's very important that we begin to put the face on this. We begin to change the public association with addiction, with mental illness, and say, no, people can have lives that are second to none. No matter how far down the scale they have gone, they will come to know a new freedom and a new happiness. But at Crisis and Counseling, we don't see many people in recovery. Why is that? Because I think recovery, for many of the folks that we serve, is a misnomer. Recovery was something that happened to Bill W. and Dr. Bob. Bill was a stockbroker. Bob, a physician. Gradually, their addictions, Bill's depression, dragged them down. and they had to rebuild their lives. They had to recover. But many of the people that we serve have never had those lives. They're coming from poverty. They're coming from family violence. They're coming from households that have been torn apart by substance use and mental health issues. They're not getting something back. They're starting anew. It's much more discovery than it is recovery. It's finding out what many others have been fortunate enough to know their whole lives, the possibilities that life in this great society can hold for us. It's also redemption. It's nothing less than a miracle each time a person is able to turn their life around, and turn their life around completely. You know, the saying in recovery is that you need to change everything. And that's absolutely true. Everything. How you think, how you act, how you dress, who you associate with, on and on and on. And if you think that's easy, try doing it for 10 minutes. But people who are doing the work of recovery have to do that every single day. And it's not easy. It becomes easier over time. But it's a process. It's a difficult process. It's a challenging process. And every recovering person deserves tremendous credit and for what they've done.